things that we are fighting for. So, I was born in Queens. I still live in Queens, but I was born in South Richmond Hill, Queens. That's where I grew up. And my parents grew up in the Woodside housing projects. My dad's a retired elevator mechanic. My mom took care of other people's kids in our home growing up. And certainly who I am and what I fight for has been shaped by my experiences in over-policed, over-criminalized, resource-starved communities. So I've spent my entire career as a public defender, representing people who could not afford to defend themselves. I've represented over 1,000 clients on, everything, ranging from turnstile jumps to all the way up to homicides. Representing people who found themselves on Rikers Island simply because they were too poor to afford their bail, or because they struggle with mental health issues or substance use disorder. And every single day in court affirmed what we already know, right? That our criminal justice system is racist, it is classist, and it is the single most powerful driver of the continued oppression and marginalization of our Black and brown communities, our low-income communities, our LGBTQIA+, and our immigrant communities. But it is also a system where if you have money, if you have the right political ties, if you have the right pockets, you can get away with hurting our communities. I mean, I represent people who, are prosecuted and criminalized for their struggles with substance use disorder rather than doctors who overprescribe opioids. I represent people who are prosecuted for homelessness rather than prosecuting bad landlords who unlawfully evict people or predatory lenders who are stealing our homes. Employers that are stealing wages, misclassifying workers. Here in Queens, we have the most worksite deaths out of the whole city, and we are not holding anyone accountable. When we talk about what our justice system does and what we should be doing, I always say that, right now, ours is a justice system that throws Black and brown people in cages for jumping turnstiles, for having a small amount of marijuana, yet when your landlord turns off your heat in the middle of the winter, we do nothing, right? When we look at the predatory lending, not just with houses, but even what's happening with medallions and the taxi industry crisis, we are doing nothing. Our district attorney's offices have historically been places that have sold us a false promise of safety. What they're doing has not improved the safety of our communities. They are measuring success through this culture of convictions at all costs. And they're like, how quickly can we rack up the convictions? How many people can we throw into jail? And that does not make us safe. What we need are the public defender's metrics for success and safety. Understanding that on any given case, we should be treating people equally and equitably, and just saying, how do we make sure that harm doesn't happen again? How do we keep our community safe? And we do that again through public defender's metrics and say you are successful in your job if you do three things. If you reduce recidivism, meaning that when somebody hurts or commits a crime, you are dealing with a case in a manner that ensures that they don't hurt somebody again who commits a crime again. Where you are getting people out of jail and keeping them rooted in their communities with access to services and supports. Because I'll tell you what, in the communities that I grew up in, the communities that I serve as a public defender, when we need help, the government sends cops. And when other communities need help, they get access to all kinds of resources and supports. And for too long, we have sat in this system that has been boiled down to good people and bad people, and we have to lock up the bad people, but really this is just about people. And how we can achieve public safety through taking care of people, through stabilizing lives. Stability equals public safety. When people know where they're going to lay their heads down at night, when they have access to healthcare, education, and job opportunities, it is the best way to keep our communities safe. And it also moves us away from a system where we criminalize poverty, mental health, substance use, gets those cases out of our system so that we can start focusing on prosecuting the crimes that we always should have been focusing on. Again, when we talk about those corporate bad actors that are destabilizing entire communities, the fact that we are not doing enough to hold people accountable for serious crimes like rape, for example. Did you know that in Queens, right, when we talk about rape accusations, there is only a minuscule number of accusations that are unfounded, but in Queens, over 25% of rape cases do not result in an arrest and a conviction, and that is unacceptable. And part of the reason for that is, again, we do not invest enough time, energy, and resources in getting justice for people who deserve it. And then beyond that, saying that we not only have to treat people who are accused of crimes more fairly, but we have to take better care of people who have been hurt. And really saying there's an opportunity to expand survivor and victim services so that people have access to healing and getting back to their lives, right? And then that last thing is just applying law fairly across racial and class lines, keeping data and releasing it to our communities so that our communities know what the office is doing. Because right now, we don't. Everything is hidden, and my commitment is to make sure that there's complete transparency and accountability so that our communities can come to the table and hold us accountable. For me, this is a once in a generation opportunity to decide what our criminal justice system will look like for the next, again, generation, right? We haven't had a DA's race in almost 30 years. And when, right now criminal justice reform is a big issue, right? As it should be. But it's almost a double-edged sword because the buzzwords are out there. Everybody knows what to say. And that's another reason why I decided to run in this race. Because really, when we talk about changing our system, the new way of prosecuting, 21st century prosecutor, these are things that public defenders have always known. They're the things that we have fought for on the front lines of court and up in Albany for decades. And so folks that are career politicians or career prosecutors who are now just saying, oh, the system's broken, we gotta fix it. They're the very people that have created the system that we have. They have benefited from it, they have contributed to our system of mass incarceration. And so for me, running in this race has very much so felt like the continuation of my advocacy for our communities. So, I'm excited about the possibility of getting into that office because I promise to bring you all with me because we have been left behind in this process. And when we talk about the policies of that office, they should be made by the people who are most directly impacted. Our community should have a voice, and that is certainly my commitment. And when I decided to run, never in a million years did I think we'd get to this place. I thought that we would be winning if we changed the conversation, if we pushed people, if we called them out on the stuff that they were wrong on, and really centered the experiences of our community members that have been devastated by our district attorney's office for the last couple of generations, right? But we're well past that point. I couldn't say this a few weeks ago, but I can say it now. We are this close to winning and taking back our district attorney's office. This close. And that is simply because of the messaging that we have put out there. This is about our communities. What we're creating is a movement that lasts beyond just the district attorney's office. It is building on what we did with the No IDC candidates. It is building on what we did in the No Amazon movement, and it's continuing with this race. We have 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks until the election. And, what we've proven is that people power is much better than money power. I don't take any corporate dollars because it is so important to be accountable to our communities and absolutely nobody else. But what we've also proven is that you don't need $1 million in the bank to get this done. You just need people. Yesterday we had over 100 people knock on over 6,000 doors. That's where we're at. We are building a strong coalition. And this is a big borough, right? We have almost 2.5 million people. And so the only thing that is keeping our vision from being what is in power in our district attorney's office is literally, do we get enough people in front of enough voters before June 25th? Because when we get in front of people, a lot of people don't even vote for your DA. But when they find out, and when they find out what we're about, we overwhelmingly win the conversation. If we get in front of enough people, we win. And so I'm really so excited that you're here and so thankful that you are here because this is a room of difference makers. This is a room of community leaders. This is a room of influencers. You are folks that talk to your neighbors, and this is so important. Y'all are literally what could push us over the finish line on this. So, I thank you for your support. I hope to continue to earn your support. And with a little over 2 weeks, my hard ask is join me in knocking some more doors and sending texts and making phone calls, sending any extra dollars you have. Another thing that I never thought that we would be able to say is we're gearing up to fund a mail program. We never thought we'd be able to pay to send mail. To be able to reach people you know, we wouldn't otherwise reach. So, you know, we're doing a lot of the carpal